Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find all episodes on any podcasting platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and watch episodes on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure to follow Spoiler Force on all social media platforms at Spoiler Force Podcast.
This is Mark Whitten, and you're listening to Spoiler Force Podcast. Set your heart ablaze.
All right, so this is episode 107 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. It's been a while since I've had a guest on the podcast, so I'm very excited to bring her on. But before I do that, I do want to let you guys know that starting February, again, the episodes for Spoiler Force will be monthly, so just be patient with episodes as well. But let me introduce my guest here. She is a cosplayer and gamer, Salem Cosplay. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You know, I first discovered your content through Instagram, just like most cosplayers that I follow is just like the algorithm through just searches and recommendations and stuff like that. But I think it was through Kaya Rogoyski. She usually shares people's cosplays on her stories, and I found you through there. Yeah, so I think the first couple cosplays I saw of yours were probably either the My Hero stuff or the Nezuko from Demon Slayer. So that really drew my interest there, and then just looking at your stories and see what you do as well. Like you have that whole manga collection in the back there.
Yes, I figured
well.
This would be the perfect time to display all my expensive hobby in the back.
Now, do you work at a library? Is that
I am a librarian. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have my bachelor's in e-society and a minor in library science and my master's degree in library science as well.
So you've been reading and collecting books pretty much your whole life then?
Forever. Literally forever. Manga was like started for me in like high school. And I feel like back then, I'm really not that old, but back then, you know, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now. So it was kind of like you kind of kept it a little secret. Like I wasn't really outwardly telling people, oh my God, did you see Attack on Titan? It's so good. But now it's so cool because it's super mainstream now. So I can literally go to anyone at a Barnes and Noble or even at my own library. I work at an elementary school. And the kids are like obsessed. So it's just really cool to see how that culture has changed throughout the years.
Yeah, that's how I was too when I was in high school. Like I've told this story before, but I remember watching like Bleach through proxy websites, and
because I was get all those ads.
Like,
all those terrible ads, and you're like, sorry.
Trying to make sure like nothing like, you know, adult shows up on the ads.
Exactly.
But I was watching Bleach, and you know, I was really secretive of being like a big anime nerd or like comic book nerd because I've seen kids get bullied because of that. So I kept it to myself, and I remember a kid reaching over behind me in the computer class. He was like, "Oh my God, is that Bleach?" And I closed the screen. I'm like, "No, that's not Bleach. I don't know what you're looking at." So
that's so funny.
So that's how I kind of grew up too, just being really secretive about it. And it wasn't until, you know, like now with today everything being mainstream and online, like
where now there's like volumes of manga you can't even get because they're just out everywhere, making collecting a lot harder. But it makes me happy because I know more people are enjoying the medium that I enjoy.
Yeah, and it gives us more like it makes it more normal now to go out and buy the books, because even at comic book stores they're selling mangas and stuff like that. Usually they used to never do that. One of the shops I go to, Liberty Comics, you know, they started pulling in Attack on Titan volumes here and there, and they do like, you know, with free comic book day, they introduce like 1 or 2 issues of certain anime series or anime mangas that are like going to be hot. And that's how I discovered Rent a Girlfriend too, was through free comic book day.
Yes, no, totally. That's such a good idea too. In my state, we have a festival of books, and they've just recently started doing manga in that, well, graphic novels, but manga basically. And so many of these people who have really never touched the medium or the format of graphic novels are now getting exposed to it. And they're like, oh my gosh, like this is really cool. I'm like, yes, I'm 100% for the graphic novels.
Now, you know, with your collection that you've had, I've seen a lot of Attack on Titan stuff. So is that what started your collecting?
Yeah, so actually Attack on Titan holds a very special place in my heart. It was the first anime that I ever was really exposed to. It was late night Toonami in the middle of the night. I was at a hotel in California, actually. I was in a soccer tournament, and I was sitting there, and I watched the very first episode of Attack on Titan, which obviously is like the craziest thing. And I was just hooked. And I was like, what is happening? What is this? And so they actually had a marathon of the entire first half of the season. So I watched the whole thing until like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. And from there, it was just like done. Everything else came, like Tokyo Ghoul came, Death Note, like all these other series. I was like, well, now I have to watch them all. But Attack on Titan is definitely my number one, my tried and true.
Yeah, Attack on Titan for me, same thing. That first episode, my God, I was with my late cousin. I was at his house and we were watching, and he's like, "You got to watch this, Ricky. It's so good." And I didn't really believe him at the time, because like during this period of anime for me, I kind of just stopped after like Naruto. The manga for Naruto was coming to an end.
Right.
Bleach was ending, so all the big three and like all the old school ones were ending, and I kind of just missed out on this period of anime. And so with Attack on Titan, that kind of like jump started everything that I liked about anime. And just seeing Aaron look at his mom getting eaten, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so good!"
It's crazy. And one of my favorite things about Attack on Titan is not only the art. Granted, in the manga, Isayama in the very beginning, it was a little shaky, but later on the art gets really beautiful. But Wit did a beautiful job animating
Yes.
Attack on Titan, and Mappa is doing just the same, just in a different style. But watching that with the beautiful orchestra music in the background, like the
Oh
emotion, like
God,
there's
I'm getting
not been
goosebumps right
yeah.
now.
Like that
Hiroyuki
OST,
Sawano is so good.
so good. I
Oh
have
my
the
God.
entire OST on my phone when I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to, you see Big Girl in the background, but it's just one of those things where everything kind of culminated in a perfect kind of way.
I could go on for days about this anime. Like I absolutely love it. When the manga ended, I was just so heartbroken because I had
And
nothing to look forward to.
waiting month to month for those last couple of chapters was pain, like serious pain. But I'm really excited to watch all the anime only people experience it the
Oh
same way
yeah,
that I kind of got to experience it. So
same.
it's been fun.
What did you think of the most recent episode though? Because
Ah! We're finally getting to like things are going to start moving very quickly.
yeah,
From what I mean, mostly they're adapting like one chapter per episode, which is pretty rare. Usually it's like 1.52 to even, some animes do 3 to 5. But this most recent one, I feel like a lot of anime onlys are finally kind of looking at Eren in a kind of different light than before. A lot of people were always like, ride or die. I am ride or die. And now they're kind of like, oh, who are the bad guys here? And I'm like, that's the whole thing. That's it. You got it.
yeah. That's the theme of war for Attack on Titan is what I absolutely love, like the realism of it, because
Yeah,
he can't decide which side is right. Like you would see, because the pretty much first 3 seasons, you're all on Aaron's side and
absolutely.
the island's side until you get to Marley. And then when you see Marley's side to see how they grow up, and then everyone hating Gabby, and then until now everyone's like, oh shoot, she's kind of turning around too. She doesn't even know who's
Right.
good or bad anymore.
It's
And
hard to it's actually funny. I was just watching the pain arc in Naruto Shippuden, and that his speech, like the cycle of hatred, is very much aligned with where Attack on Titan is kind of going. And I actually have a really unfavorable opinion about Eren himself. I really didn't love Eren. I rooted for him. I feel like I'm Jean. Like, oh, I know he's cool and I enjoy watching him do his thing, but also I'm like, like you're so annoying. But of course, like as the show goes on, when you see the ending of his struggle, either way it hurts because you've been with him for so long.
yeah, I think for me, I've always loved Aaron, but it wasn't until I'm not no spoilers here, but it wasn't until the end of the series where you kind of finally see where Aaron stands. And I
Right.
can't wait till anime watchers watch this, because right now everyone's like just rooting for him because of the violence and the
Right.
possible rumbling and all of that stuff that's going on. But I think like when you see his full vision of why he's pursuing all of this with like no hesitation and no repercussions of anything, it really opens up like the viewer's eyes on why Aaron is doing what he's doing, and it
Right.
makes it seem so much more normal than like a supernatural series. But
Right.
for
It's an
me,
impossible
oh yeah,
choice.
go ahead.
It's an
Yeah,
impossible choice that he has to make, basically.
I think for me though, I related the most to Reiner. folks hate. I have a cousin who hates Reiner.
I personally love Reiner. Right up there with Armin for like character development. They kind of do like a full, like you get all of their different sides of their characters. But Reiner, towards the end too, the whole time I'm like, just you got it, bud. You can do it. Like
What I love about Reiner was like the irony for him was that
Mhm.
this guy wants to die, but he doesn't die. He keeps going and going and going. Even with the last episode, right? He's like, "All right, I'm gonna let what's his name,
Falco,
Falco
take
eat
me,
me."
take me.
Yeah, and then Falco gets up and leaves. Like, dude, this guy doesn't die. So I think that's what's great about Reiner is like, man, this guy is looking for death. Like he wants a way out, and he doesn't. So he
In a
just keeps
world full of
going.
death.
Yeah.
He's looking for death and he can't find it. I think that's very Isayama. His writing is, if you don't want to die, you're gonna die, and if you do want to die, too bad. You got to stick it out.
Oh man, like just Isayama knows how to pull his heartstrings, man. Like
Yep.
when Sasha died, I was
Rough.
just so broken. I was like, man,
Rough.
you took out the girl that gave comedic relief to
That's when
this
you knew it was gonna
intense
get
series.
serious. Yeah, you knew it was gonna get serious when he started killing the comedic relief. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, it was
It
sad.
happened very suddenly too. Like there wasn't
Yeah.
a whole lot of build up. Like a lot, like Aaron's mom. It was very like dramatic. The orchestra was going. You knew it was going to happen. It was slow motion, but Sasha was very like done. That was it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
Like even reading the pages of that manga, like of that chapter, I dropped my phone. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like
Yes, lots
really?
of moments like that.
Yeah.
That's what makes it one of the greats. I feel like for a series that is so full of character death, for Isayama to still make those deaths make you feel, that's really important. I mean, it could be, for example, like is it Akame Kill? Where
Yes.
basically everybody just dies.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
I still felt some of those deaths, but after a while I was like, well, I know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen. So let's just see how it happens. But I still feel like in Attack on Titan, it was very much I was like, please, just leave them alone.
Yeah, even till the end, I still kind of thought like, man, are they all gonna make it, or are they all gonna get wiped out? So that's what I love about Attack on Titan. So any anime watchers who are interested in reading the manga, do it now because it's gonna get so much better. And then
So
I don't know,
crazy.
like I'm just waiting for these upcoming episodes because I know what's gonna happen, and I cannot wait for the next reveals.
I
And
know.
I'm just sitting here waiting.
I actually have a panel tattooed on me that's coming up, the Freedom panel. So when that gets animated, I'm gonna be so excited. I'm gonna be so happy. I just can't wait to see how Mappa does it.
Do you prefer Mappa or do you prefer Wit Studio? Because I liked Wit Studio's animation way better.
Yeah, so it's hard. Because for the first 3 seasons, I wouldn't say it was as heavy as like, in theme wise. Obviously, people were still dying and it was horrible. And they had some beautiful shots, like Ymir in Paths, her looking up, beautiful. Levi's fight scene in season 3 where he's flying through the city, beautifully done, beautifully done. So those definitely have like a special place. But I also really like Mappa too because I feel like they do heavy and dark in a different way that feels more like there's more weight on it. So like all of the scouts and what was it 2 episodes ago where there are scattered bodies all throughout Shiganshina, and that I feel like in Wit's style would be less, but Mappa is doing it very well. So I like both. Both are very, very good.
Yeah, I like your take on that. I think what Mappa did well though was like their action sequences.
Yes.
It's
The
definitely
Kaiku's
more,
also.
yeah, it's more like fight oriented because
Right.
with doing Jujutsu Kaisen and other what was another one like God of High School, like fighting
Yes.
styles like that. So it's very quick but very intense at the same time.
Right.
But
It makes me very excited for Chainsaw Man, which is
oh
another one of
man,
my favorites.
you know I tell all the followers that like, I was reading it, but I've only read like the first 2 chapters, and my nephew is like on my ass about it. He's like,
It's
"You
so
gotta
good.
read it."
It's so good. I actually started reading Chainsaw Man when the last 5 chapters of Attack on Titan were coming out because I wanted a break. Because I was like, this seems funny. Like Denji seems like a goofy kid. He's just trying to eat good and touch girls. Seems funny. Incorrect.
Oh,
It
that
is
first
also
chapter was
pain.
crazy. Yeah.
Also painful. Was no break
Like
that I
I was
wanted.
I was hooked on that first chapter. I just haven't found or made time to read it because I think during that time too, I was trying to read Jujutsu Kaisen, and then
Yes.
that's when
I'm
the
also caught
anime.
up on Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh, okay, I haven't caught up yet. I I'm caught up on the anime, and I've read a couple chapters
Yes.
past the season one, but like Chainsaw Man, I haven't made time to read it. But it's on my list though. It's on my top 5 to read.
Yes, for sure. Especially with Jujutsu Kaisen, they just announced that the movie's coming March 18th.
Yes, yes.
That's super exciting. I felt like we were gonna have to wait a little longer, but it seems like they're picking things up. I was like, yay, maybe it's the Demon Slayer success that's kind of rubbing off now that they'll give us things a little quicker.
Speaking of anime movies, though, do you think Attack on Titan? Do you think Attack on Titan will do a movie for their finale?
At this point, with the rate that they're adapting chapter to episode, yes. Otherwise, they're gonna have to cram a lot into a little.
Yeah.
I know people are kind of upset that they would have to wait for a movie, but I love the series so much that I'm okay with waiting a year. It'd probably be about a year, if not more, to see it done really well.
I'm hoping for a movie as well
Yeah.
because after
Really?
what Demon Slayer did, it's
Beautiful,
it's
beautiful.
insane when you give a movie budget to anime companies
Yes.
or like to animation companies and to see what they can do with it. But I just hope that they don't pull like what Demon Slayer did though, because I was disappointed
Yeah,
that they
I wasn't a fan
redid
of
the
that.
entire movie in a season. I didn't like that at all.
I feel like Mappa has so much going on that they won't have the time to do that. Like, they have to choose one or the other because they have so much going on. I just can't even believe that they're adapting so many different things. Not even like things, but huge franchises.
Yeah. So that they're busy.
Yeah,
But I just
good
hope
luck
that it
to
goes
them.
well. But to continue on though, I like I said, I could talk about Attack on Titan all day, but this is about you. So you started cosplaying. Was this like not too long ago when you started cosplaying, or was this something that you've always done?
So, cosplay, like, seriously, I've started in, like, 2016. I just graduated high school. Um, and I had always gone all out for Halloween. Halloween in my family is, like, the holiday. My mom used to hand make all of our costumes, and, like, we would go crazy, so that was nothing new. My dad actually took me to my first Comic-Con, and I took Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, this will be really fun, like, I'll just dress up." I made her little outfit. I bought a wig, which was horrendous. And I went to Comic-Con, and I had such a fun time. Like, there was just so many different things that I loved on top of, like, people asking me for pictures and saying, "Oh my gosh, you look so good." Like, I felt like I could be that character, and then I was hooked. So from then on, I was like, "Okay, we gotta get serious. We're gonna do this for real." So then that's when I actually started going into getting these more detailed costumes, either commissioning or making them, and then creating my Instagram, which I didn't think was gonna go anywhere. I was like, "I'll probably have, like, 100 followers. That will be cool." But then it kinda blew up, so I was super excited about that.
Have you been So what was your first convention then? Was that in Arizona? Like was it like a smaller convention
It
or was
was
it one of the
really
bigger
small, so
ones?
it's actually pretty local. It's, Tucson Comic Con, so very small, like in our Tucson Convention Center, which has actually gotten a lot bigger in the past couple of years. Obviously not with COVID, but kind of expanded. We get more guests that are voice actors that are more relevant, which is really cool. But then from there, I went to like Phoenix Comic Con, obviously, which was way bigger, all the way to BlizzCon. So it was really fun to kind of see the different sizes of cons and also what they offer.
Do you prefer like the actual Comic Cons or like anime conventions? I know they're kind of like the same thing, but they're two separate themes here. So was there one that you prefer over the other?
Honestly, no. I just love going. I love going and showing, like, picking out the cosplay. Obviously, with anime ones, I have way more anime cosplays than I do really anything else. Um, but it's just fun because all these people around you are also enjoying the same stuff that you are, and you can have conversations like this, which my friend group doesn't doesn't participate in anime or manga or really reading in general. So being able to interact with the community in that way was super cool.
Yeah, I think I recently went to a small convention in Michigan. It's Otaku Detroit. They did their own mini con, and it was fun to go back to conventions again. But what's your thoughts on, like, with the pandemic still kind of going on and going to conventions? Are you planning to go to any more this year? Because I know like con season's picking back up, but like they're getting more strict on, like,
Right.
health reasons and all that stuff.
My main thing is I just want people to be safe. So if people feel safe going back to con, if they have their vaccinations, and obviously there still needs to be safety precautions. Like, that's just a given at this point, just what the times we're living in. But yeah, I think if you feel comfortable and you feel safe, then going to a con, I feel like it should be an option. I actually just went to a very, very small one. Um, and it was really fine. Like, they had mask mandates. They kind of had everyone spaced out. All the vendors were spaced out appropriately. Most of it was outside, which really helped. So I think I'm still gonna go. I'm vaccinated, so I wear my mask. I make sure I'm safe. I distance when I can, and I'm just gonna make sure that everyone else is safe around me and enjoy myself.
Was there anything that kind of just inspired you then to do cosplaying? Was it just the fact that you like dressing up, or was there like people that you followed online? Like for me, I always enjoyed cosplay because I always saw like Naruto cosplayers from Japan, and I
Yes.
always loved the art, like how they were able to do it. Usually, it's always like the women that do it way better than the guys. Like they pulled off the male characters way better. So that kind of like really drew my interest because I was really young when I first saw this stuff. My cousin, he showed me like on back on like the MySpace days. He was like, "Oh, look at this, Ricky! You got to look at these cosplayers." And so, what kind of pushed you to just start finally like doing what you wanted to do with cosplay?
So I actually really wasn't exposed to cosplay very much at all before I started doing it. Obviously, like I said, like my mom made a big deal about Halloween, so I saw people like dressing up for Halloween and like that kind of stuff. But when I went to that first con, that's what really was my first interaction with cosplayers in general, and I was like, man, some of these people are like incredible. There's a faction out here of Fallout cosplayers who have the full power armor set up and they have handlers. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, people really go all out for this, and it's awesome, like, the coolest thing." As for, like, celebrities, the only person that I really saw at the beginning of my cosplay journey was Jessica Nigri. I feel like everyone knows Jessica Nigri if you're in the anime community or cosplay. And watching her videos and tutorials in which she just very candid about she's like, "Oh, I don't really like to sew, so we're just gonna hot glue this and hope it lives," was very much more accessible to me than some of these other people who are, their elaborate costume designs. They're stitching 5 different stitches and getting fabric, and that was so overwhelming to me. But then I went back to Jessica, and she was like, "Just put some hot glue on there, stick it together, you're good to go." And I was like, I could do that. I could do that."
That's what always drew my interest to cosplay too, was like seeing how craftful or like how creative people got with making their own costumes. Even though like at the end most of these costumes all look alike, but the work that each person puts in is so different.
So different.
Um Recently there's this anime that dropped, My Dress Up Darling. I don't know
Yep.
if you heard of that. Yeah,
I
so
have to, yeah.
yeah, so that I kind of like that anime. I was like, man, I like what they're doing here because they're teaching or showing the viewers like what goes into cosplaying. What it's not,
Right.
it's not just simply dressing up as the character,
Of
but then if you
course.
create your own costume, there's all these different aspects and measurements and all that stuff. So for me, I always enjoyed seeing and learning that. I don't cosplay myself. I just like how creative people get. Like one of my favorites is Stella Chu. How she creates her own props, and she has like, I don't know if she
Yes.
still does it, but she had like a show where she would dress up like people in their costumes, and then Martin Wong would take photos of them in their costumes.
Yes.
So I thought that was really cool to see
Super
them do that.
cool, and especially, like, My Dress Up Darling, first of all, would be a dream to have some random boy make my costumes for me, and I wouldn't have to put in that work. But even, like, my first cosplay that I ever made seems, like, so easy. It was Raven from Teen Titans, the original, and it was just a cape, like, her cloak, and a bodysuit, and her belt, and the jewels. Seems very easy, and I made the belt out of the bottom end of beer cans. I painted them and I glued jewels, like the fish tank jewels on them. And it was like everyone complimented me. I was like, these are beer cans. These are beer cans. I hated these. It was just fun too, because then people are like, oh my gosh, it looks so good though. I'm like, you could do this. You could do this.
Was there any, I guess, what was probably the most difficult project that you've done with your costumes?
In the height of Game of Thrones, I did Khaleesi in her like burlap brown, like right when she gets her dragons, basically. And working with burlap was a nightmare. Nobody told me. Obviously, I didn't look anything up, but sewing burlap, it's full of holes. So it was a struggle, many nights of hot glue and trying to pin things together. And finally it worked. It was great. It took me probably like 3 to 4 days. But it looked great in pictures, and then it immediately fell apart afterwards, and I will probably never wear it again. But it was great. It served its purpose.
Have you done any like I guess not merch, but like have you sold any of your costumes at all, or do you tend to just keep all of it?
I hoard them. They're in this room actually is like my work room. There's a closet off to the side that is like jam packed full of like props, wigs, all my cosplays. Some don't even fit me anymore, and I'm like, oh, maybe one day I'll just, I'll fix it and it'll fit me. And they're just all crammed in there. I only look at it when I need to go in there.
I don't know. I think that just comes with like being a with like being like a collector. Like for me, I kind of hoard things too. I with all my comic books that I have and all my figures, like there are still some
Absolutely.
like stuff that I have like, oh, I'll use that eventually and never use it again. It's just sitting there.
One of the best parts of cosplay too is I can repurpose a lot of that stuff. Like the Harley wig, easy. Take it down, take the color out. It's a blonde wig now. I can use it for whatever. So I hesitate to throw things away because I'm just like, well, I could use that one day. Maybe there's a character that I can repurpose this for.
Was there any I guess not just with difficulty of cosplaying, but like was there anything that came that was pretty easy for you as well then? Like for character wise?
I'm contrary to popular belief, I'm really not a people person. It's really hard for me to talk to people. Very shy, introverted for sure. So having to, what I call it is I jump into the personality of whoever I'm dressed as. That's very easy for me. But I have photographers that I've worked with for cosplay that reach out to me for fashion, where I'm just, I'm myself. And I have to turn them down a lot of the time because I'm like, I don't know how to be myself in a picture. I spent hours like studying poses and mannerisms and all of this stuff to like really adapt the character in photos. And so when it's just me, I'm just like, hi, I don't know where to put my hands. I don't know what to do. So that part, like not technically cosplay, but networking, communicating with people, and then having people want to take pictures of just me is like, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't.
Yeah, because modeling has to do a lot with like cosplaying nowadays too, because everyone wants to do like photo shoots or
Yes.
collaborations and even like conventions. That's where like a lot of these photographers get their shots because
Right.
they meet and network with other cosplayers. So I think for me, I'm glad before like everything blew up, like I got to take pictures with cosplayers before like they all had like their own booths and whatnot.
Right.
It's just now it's so crazy like with everyone with social media too, like it's just going up to someone like, hey, can I just take a photo with you? Like now you can't really do that anymore because it's just weird. Now it's like you have to have a reason to do that. Like for me, like I'm giving out one of my tricks here is I have my cards ready for my podcast. I'm just like, your picture's gonna be on my Instagram, so
Yeah,
take a
here you
picture of
go.
them.
I actually have cards too.
Yeah.
So when photographers take pictures of me, I'm like, here you go. Please tag me in that. But I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and though the networking is, I'm just awkward, it is still really enjoyable. So it's worth it to kind of come out of your little shell and interact with other people.
I think that's what makes conventions so great too, though. Is like, you go to a place where everyone's just kind of the same. It's not
Right.
like, I hate to say it, like high school type thing. It's not like that where everyone has their own cliques and
right.
all that. I mean, you go to a convention, you can just be yourself there hopefully without being judged. I know with how crazy this community is getting with everything blending together now and how
Right.
mainstream it is. But overall, the whole nerdom and otaku fandoms and all these communities merging together. I think that's what makes it so great. And I really just hated how I wasn't growing up with this being mainstream until
Yeah,
like being an adult now.
the
And just like,
jealousy.
man, yeah, I just like, man, I got made fun of for liking anime and
Yeah,
comic books, and now everyone is cool now if
yeah.
you like that stuff.
My favorite thing is the merch that we're getting now. Because before, obviously, it was like Hot Topic was like the only place to get like anime merch. And it would just be like the poster of Attack on Titan or whatever it was, just plastered on a shirt. But now there's all these subtle merch companies, like small businesses on TikTok and stuff. And I just can't keep any of my money. I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool. I want that." Or, "Oh my gosh, that was really awesome." Like the embroidered shirts that I've been seeing a lot on TikTok. I just buy so many of those and I'm just like, "Well, it's fine. It's going to a good cause."
I guess for you now, how did you pick your name then for your cosplay? Like, I know Salem has to do with like a lot of the, I guess, witch trials, right? Is that
Yes.
something that drew your interest growing
Yes.
up?
Um, very witchy vibes. And the Sailor Salem was basically I was just thinking of like a Sailor Scout, like from Sailor Moon. I was like, if I was a Sailor Scout, what would my vibe, my name be? And I was like, Salem seems cool. Like, I have very dark hair. I have black nails all the time, wear rock necklaces, whatever. I was like, this seems right. So it was just really random. I was like, this will be fine. Again, I didn't really think anything was going to come of it. I just thought I was going to have, my friends and family on my Instagram be like, "Oh, she's dressing up again. That's really cool." But it ended up getting much bigger, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's what like makes cosplayers unique too. Is like like screen names back in the day, having certain MySpace names and stuff like that. Something that stands out. And so, I didn't want to just assume that Salem was because of the witch trials, but
Yeah.
like that's the first thing I think of. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I don't want to just assume things here. But
Nope, that's exactly what it is. That's it.
now, was that something that you've always been into? Because like I was never into like remember reading the Salem witch trials and stuff like that in high school. I wasn't that into it. But is that something that always drew your interest in, like just like all that dark mystery themed
Yeah,
stuff like that?
so, again, this all ties back to my mom. I was obviously, like, Halloween, like I said, very popular in our household, but also my mom practiced, Wicca, and she dabbled in paganism and, did a bunch of different stuff in that kind of spirituality. So just by default, I was also kind of dragged along for the ride, and I actually really liked it, so that's just kind of the vibe that I stayed with.
You don't do like tarot card readings and stuff like that, do you?
No, no, I feel like I'd say I'm a casual person. I so admire tarot card readers and, like, people who give other people readings, and I get them often, but to do one myself, I'm, like, too scared. I'm like, "What if I tell someone the wrong thing? What if I just messed up their whole life?" So, I just participate. I do not, facilitate the services.
Yeah, that culture of just that, like, again, for me, I'm not too into that, but I am aware of it. Like, I think growing up, like that was something that always kind of drew my interest. I just was never that into it. I always liked like the books and stuff.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the a lot of folks like the whole Edgar Allan Poe, like all the dark stuff there.
Yes.
Um, I have like his entire, like not his entire collection, but I have a book that has like his best collections in it, and
Yeah.
it's like a very thick book. And I haven't gone through the whole thing, but I've read a few of his writings. Because there was a one point in time where I wanted to write for a living, and so like I would read like his books, Shakespeare, all the stuff that
Yes.
you should read if you want to be
Literary
a writer.
classics.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes, I
but
have plenty of those on my bookshelves.
uh, you know, if you don't mind that I bring this up, like on your Instagram story, you had a screenshot of what you were writing about Aaron for your
Yes.
college thesis. Was it a thesis? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so, I'm currently getting my master's degree in library science. So one of our classes that we have to take as librarians is called Reader's Advisory. So basically, it's learning how to first talk about books, and second, be able to take in information that someone gives you and regurgitate a selection of books for them that you think they would like to read. So that assignment was specifically us practicing how to talk about a book that we love. They said, pick your favorite book or series and dissect it in this way that you think you could offer it up to someone who maybe has never heard of it, never read the genre, or, you know, experienced something like that. So I figured manga would be the first, like, perfect medium to try and do that assignment with, because a lot of people I feel like are initially hesitant to try manga because I feel like it's usually associated with like teenagers, or, you know, it's anime. No one really wants to go that way if they're not already. So I was just practicing.
Yeah, I you know, again back to Attack on Titan, like just the themes of like freedom and what
Yes.
Eren was fighting for, and I absolutely love all that stuff. I think that's what makes me like Attack on Titan too, because like again, trying to be a writer at one point, like reading what Isayama's like story structure, how he does everything, and like all the twists that connects at the end of the story, because that, you know, a lot of folks that I know that started Attack on Titan, they excuse me, they were interested because there was so much plot holes in the beginning. Like no one knows where this story is going. You
Right.
think that the Titans are just there, and then as it unfolds, you find out like Titans are actually people, and then, you know, it's either you were with the story, like ride or die with the story, or you weren't. And so,
Right.
like for me, I loved Isayama's like writing style, just
His
how
use of foreshadowing, I think, is one
yeah
of the best that I've ever seen, and I think, the manga format really helps him in that because he never has to explicitly say any of his foreshadowing, it's just there. And if you're not paying attention, you gloss right over it. But when you go back, I think the reread value of Attack on Titan is
oh yeah.
astronomical. If you love the series, go back and read it from the beginning. Um,
No, for me, it was when you first see Marley, and then Reiner tells his story. They give Reiner's story of how they got to Paradise Island, and then going back and just watching the anime again. I'd never caught the shots of like Annie and Bertha and Reiner being in the background,
yep.
and then so
Mhm.
I catch all that, or like when you know, when they break down the wall and it's just Reiner, Bertolt, and Nanny like hugging each other, like we're okay. And then on the other side, it's
Right.
Aaron, Mikasa, and Armin. I'm like, oh my god, this is so good.
Exactly. There's even a right before they go into Shiganshina the first time when they go back, Armin even says, I think it's to Jean, he says, you know, if it's anyone who can give up their humanity and save us, it's Aaron, which that now has a whole different meaning, especially in these next coming episodes. So I think it's really cool that he just put it so early in the series. Like he knew what he was doing. He
Yeah.
knew the whole story, how it was going to go. So I just think that's really cool.
Have you considered like doing any manga art yourself, like
I
writing or
have
anything like
no artistic talent. None.
that?
Unfortunately, I cannot draw or, obviously, I write a little bit just because of the profession that I'm in, but other than that, I just consume, and then I talk about it to people.
You know, are there any comic books that you read at all? Because I know like a lot of stuff you read is manga. So like were you into reading like DC Comics or Marvel or even Image
I
Comics at all?
actually haven't read too many American comics, except for I read Walking Dead. Um But that was purely because when the show was coming out, I was like, "I cannot wait any longer." So I would read that, which ended up being totally different from the show
Yeah.
anyways. So that was, like, one of the only other ones that's not manga. Obviously, I read, like, webtoons and that kinda stuff, but never, like, DC Marvel Comics, although I do watch all the movies and I keep up with the lore, I just have never, like, actually read a comic.
If there's one comic I can recommend you, it's Saga. Actually, speaking of Saga, the new issue dropped today after like a 3-year hiatus.
I've
Um,
seen lots of advertisements for it.
yeah, it's it is really good. Like if you like the whole Game of Thrones, like Star Wars sci-fi feel, it's really good. Again, like Attack on Titan, it's a series based on like a wartime, two different factions going at each other. There's a big conspiracy at the end somewhere. Um, you know,
Is it finished?
no, it's still ongoing. It's just crazy because like the first 54, or I don't know how many breaks they've taken, but then like because I picked this up during like when it hit volume 5. But it's like it is like a weekly. It was a weekly series, like like issue by issue release. Again, just today they just dropped issue, or is it today? No, it's tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's tomorrow, Wednesday. they'll be dropping issue 55. And again, this hiatus that they had, it was like about 3 years. And Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples, I think they felt like they were sort of burnt out from writing so much, because at the no spoilers, but the issue 54, they left off at a huge cliffhanger. And me and my friends who read Saga were like, oh my god, what's next? And at the end of the comic books, they have like the writer's notes and stuff. And so they were like, we're gonna be on hiatus until further notice. And so we're like, just sitting here waiting. Yeah, and now it's finally being released. And I moved out here to Oklahoma, so like I have no comic book stores near me, and I'm so irritated right now because my pre-ordered issue is coming to my house in Michigan.
Oh,
and I can't read. Yeah, I can't read it. So I'm like, what the hell? I'm gonna have to buy this like digitally now. But
what is there like an app similar to like Shonen Jump and Viz that you can read Saga on?
Yeah. There's like Comixology or like some other. I don't know too many. But I read, because I usually buy. It's funny because like I can read my mangas online, but when it comes to comic books, I have to have it in hand, which is weird. I don't know why I'm like this, but it's just it is what it is at this
you
point.
Just accept it and you move on.
Yeah. So like I don't know too many apps for comic books, but I know Comixology is one of the big ones.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely read Saga if you can. It's really good. It's very adult oriented, so it's not like childish, or it's like there's it's very graphic if you're into that. So it's like that.
Perfect. I'll have to check it out. I mean,
yeah,
I'll just go to the library and check it out.
It's really good. Yeah, I think right now they have 5 volumes, maybe 6 or no, there's more than that. There's 6 or 7, 8 the most, I believe, and then with the upcoming issues. But yeah, the artwork is great. It's consistent, because like with Image Comics though, what I like about it is like it's similar to manga, where it's like one artist and one writer. It's one continuous story, unlike DC and Marvel, where they have different arcs and then different artists and different writers. So Image Comics and like all these other smaller companies that aren't too big yet, like Dark Horse or Dynamite, like they tend to be consistent. Yeah, so that definitely, not just to you, but anyone who hasn't heard or read Saga, read Saga. That is my number one recommendation all the time to anyone who wants to read comic books. I picked that over DC and Marvel comic books. Yeah.
I have an assignment coming up where I have to read a new graphic novel. So
okay,
there we go. That'll
definitely
be it.
Yeah, definitely do that. If you want to start your own podcast like Spoiler Force, then sign up with Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has helped hundreds of thousands of users like me to begin their podcasting journey. With easy-to-use tools, you can effectively get your podcast into different platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and more. You can view your stats, create audio clips, and even have your own podcasting website. Buzzsprout offers ideas, tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you improve your podcast. Follow the link below, and once you sign up, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. This will let Buzzsprout know that I sent you and will also support Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want a simpler way to record both video and audio for your podcast, then sign up with StreamYard. StreamYard is the perfect program to create podcasts, host live streams, and even do video calls. There are many tools that can help you create and design your own personal studio. You can screen share, read live comments, and stream to different destinations like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also download your video and audio once you're done with your recording session. Follow the link below, and once you sign up with the basic or pro plan, you'll earn a $10 credit to use for StreamYard. Happy podcasting. You also do some gaming as well. Do you do any like Twitch streaming at all?
I dabbled in Twitch over COVID. And the main problem, I loved it. It was super, super fun. And my channel was growing pretty steadily. My only issue was I felt like I had to get fully ready every time I wanted to game. And I don't look like this when I'm trying to game. I look very bedraggled, and like my hair is up and I'm like in a big t-shirt or sweater and I'm gaming because that's what I'm going to do all day. So I kind of shied away from streaming it, but I definitely still play nonstop. I don't know. It's something that I should probably examine why I feel that way, because I'm sure people don't always feel that way. But it's something that I need to kind of decide whether or not I want to do.
Yeah, I tried some Twitch streaming before. I don't have the proper equipment yet because I'm running everything on a laptop right now.
Yeah.
But when I build my PC, I'm gonna try to attempt to stream, which is weird because I enjoy talking on the podcast,
Mhm.
but then when I'm on the stream, I'm like completely quiet. I'm just like, what do I talk
I
about?
rely heavily on chat.
Yeah, and so like for me, it's just if I was at one point I was streaming Final Fantasy X. I was just replaying the HD version.
Right.
Um, I got to like a good hour or so just talking, and then by the time I knew it, I was just too focused on the game, and I just
Right.
forgot
Well,
about my
especially those
audience.
big, like,
Yeah,
RPG games, you just
yeah,
get sucked in, and I'm just like, "Oh, sorry,
yeah.
guys. Glad you were there. How are we doing?"
Yeah, so that's how I was. So I kind of just stopped doing that. And even when I do like live streams or like of the podcast and stuff,
Mhm.
like I get too caught up in the conversation where like when I see comments and stuff, I kind of get distracted from that. I'm like, oh, am I supposed to respond to that or am I
Right.
gonna?
Well, and it's hard too. I see the obviously, like, the big streamers, like, I watched Ninja one time, but if you're so focused playing an online game, I don't think I could interact at the same time because I play Overwatch. So, if I was in a game and really, like, trying to clutch it, I don't think I'd be able to talk. I'd just be sitting there, like, trying to live.
Are there any other games that you play? Because like for me, I play or the game I'm playing right now heavily is Genshin Impact. That's the
I
big
tried
game.
Genshin. I did. I tried, but I feel like my attention span was so little. A lot of the games that I play are heavily story based.
Okay.
So it has to be like basically I'm watching a story unfold. So I actually just replayed Final Fantasy VII the remake because I was hoping in my heart that they would announce part 2 sometime this year. Who knows? But I played the DLC for that. I replayed Witcher for the 50th time. But other than that, there really hasn't been too much that has come out that has, like, caught my attention, so I just stick with my I play Stardew Valley, I play Don't Starve, like, my little games, and I play my Switch.
What was your thoughts on the 7 ending for the integrate? Because now with Zach coming back and
Alive.
being a
So,
yeah, he's
this
a
is,
part of this.
kind of a I feel like I have a very unique I was a gamer, I never played a Final Fantasy before the remake.
Really? Oh wow,
So,
okay.
the remake was my first Final Fantasy game. Um, and I knew Cloud from Kingdom Hearts. So I knew all these Final Fantasy characters purely from Kingdom Hearts. I'm a avid fan of Kingdom Hearts, so I knew all of that. But outside of that, I knew nothing. So going through it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love it." And then at the end of the game, I see this black-haired man who I have no idea who he is walk by. I'm like, "Man, this seems kind of important. Who is that guy?" So then I went down the Google rabbit hole and I learned everything there was to know about Final Fantasy VII. So the fact that they're kind of introducing alternate timelines or, something similar is I think it's kind of exciting. I also don't have a personal attachment to the original. So them kind of switching it up feels really fun and exciting for an age-old game that everyone knows what happens at the end, you know?
I am one of those few that are attached to the
Yeah.
old ones.
And that's okay, that's totally fine. I do hope the way that this is how ideally I feel like it would go. Um, I feel like the death may not happen in the same way, but will still happen. That's how I
uh,
feel like it should go.
well, with how Nomura does the games, because like with Kingdom Hearts, he kind of did the same thing too with the timelines and all
Oh,
like the
if I
different
had to explain to
multiverses.
you what the lore of Kingdom Hearts was, we would be here for 2 weeks.
I had to I took my mom to one of the Kingdom Hearts orchestras
Oh,
and
beautiful.
they had the screen in the back and with all these different characters. Like my mom got who like she knows who Sora and Riku are,
Right.
but when she saw like all the other characters and like all the prequel characters, she's like, "What is that?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't explain this to you."
Like, it's
Like,
so much. I'm so sorry. That one, his name is Roxas, but he's also Sora, but
yeah.
he's also Venetus. So, I don't know how to explain that to you.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that they don't kind of go that route with the 7 remake
Yeah,
because like, that's solely Kingdom Hearts style, right?
right.
Like with
And
that
I
with
think too,
the
the
timelines.
introduction of the Arbiters of Fate was I think it was a cool tool to kind of adjust, but I also think it'll be one of those things where Aerith will be like, "Hey, this is not how it's supposed to go. I can't be here, so we have to fix it." And I feel like that's how they're gonna kind of divert, make it new, but also keep it the same.
Now, what are your thoughts on Seven's storyline now? Now that I know that you haven't even played the old ones yet,
Um,
what's your thoughts on this compared to like I guess, to Kingdom Hearts or to other Final Fantasies that that you could have played?
So first of all, as a small child, I love Cloud. Obviously, I feel like all the girls that played Kingdom Hearts were like Cloud. Oh my gosh, we love Cloud. So originally, this sounds terrible. One of the only reasons I played 7 because I was like, I need to know where this man came from. Why is he here? What's going on with him? And Sephiroth, kicks your butt in Kingdom Hearts. So I was like, who's that guy? But the actual storyline of like playing through it, I had a lot of fun. I know it is a little repetitive, and a lot of like the side missions that you can do, but I just think that kind of allows you more time to get a better idea of who Cloud is and whoever's with you, whether it's Tifa, Aerith, Barrett. I just think it's kind of fun. Like I definitely did every single side quest, no matter how kind of mundane it was. The dance mini game, loved that. That was great. So I just thought it was a lot of fun. I liked it. From someone who knows nothing, I wanted to immediately keep playing. I didn't want it to be split into parts.
That was one of the scenes I was looking forward to the most with the remake, was seeing how they would adapt Cloud to dressing up as a girl.
Yes,
Or
and
like
they
a
gave him
woman.
so many outfit options.
Yeah.
I love that for him.
It's like back in the PlayStation 1 game, like, because it's all pixelated, not pixelated, but it's
Right.
like 3D
Like
pixels.
polygon.
Yeah, polygons. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. But it was like that. So it's very simple, like, but now with how graphics are today with CGI and all that, I was like,
Yeah.
I want to see how he pulls off looking like a woman.
And I feel like his voice lines were like perfect for his character. Like the whole time when Tifa is like, hey, wait a minute. I know who you are. And he's like, I nailed it. I know, like, stop talking to me. We're done. But I actually played the PS4 and the PS5 version. And the PS5 graphics are gorgeous. Absolutely stunning. There is a huge difference between them.
Are there any favorites that you have besides Cloud though? Like, I know, like, with Yuffie's a big one, especially with
Yeah,
the
which I
integrated.
also knew from Kingdom Hearts. Yuffie's in there for a little bit. I'm a Tifa girl. I have a Tifa cosplay. I love Tifa. I also really do like Aerith, which I didn't think I would coming in from the outside. But her personality really grows on you. Like she's just kind of a weird, quirky, intuitive kind of girl. And I was like, you know what? I'm okay. Yeah, I like this. We're good. We're good. I think all the characters in Final Fantasy are pretty fleshed out and cool, like to interact with.
I was a big Tifa person too when I played the original game, and then it wasn't until Crisis Core, which was the PSP game for like
Right.
the
I
prequel.
watched that whole game when I
Yeah,
went down that rabbit hole.
it wasn't until that game where I absolutely fell in love with Aerith, and then
Yeah.
like that solidified Zack for me as well. Like
Mhm.
I'm a big Zack person, so seeing him come back in the game, I geek out. And like we were saying before, like with him being alive in this series now, some of my theories are like maybe it might be like a Spider-Man thing where they all just like, oh my god, I know who you are, and just point at each
Right.
other. Hopefully he doesn't I'm hoping he doesn't die, but he's a catalyst for Cloud, so like if he
Right.
doesn't die, it's going to change Cloud.
Well, that's why even at the end, I don't know I don't know how they're gonna do it because I think it is 2 alternate timelines because of that wrapper that flies across the screen that has Scout on it
Yeah.
is a different breed. So, are we gonna see that Cloud and that Aerith and that Tifa in a separate way, or are they gonna combine? I don't know. There's so many different ways they could go, and I'm just waiting for them to release it so I can see what happens.
I was thinking that maybe like with the Cloud from the remake timeline, he might run into the original timeline team. Like, so because
Yeah,
I know that with the cast for the 7 remake, they recasted everyone. So
right.
it's a whole different set of people. But then I think they might still, if the
Ooh,
game
that would
goes
be
on,
cool.
that the original cast comes back, and
That
you
would be
get the
really
Advent
cool.
Children Cloud. And then so I'm like I said, with like the whole Spider-Man multiverse thing, they might just all
Yeah.
see each other, and hopefully that's the case. But
Yeah,
with
that would be
Nomura,
awesome.
yeah,
Well, they
with
even
Nomura, I don't know
flashed,
what's
like,
gonna
some of
happen.
the original scenes from the PlayStation 1 where, like, they had it's quick when he's, like, having his moment and grabbing his head. You can see him, like, putting Aerith into the water when she's dead.
Yeah.
That's one of the scenes that flashed by, and I remember watching that, and I was like, "What is happening?" I have no idea what's going on. I didn't look anything up until the end of the game, so I really had, like, no idea what was going on.
That is, it's great to hear someone's take on it on that hasn't played the game. Because like for me, I know a bunch of people who like we're all speculating, and me and my cousins we're all big Final Fantasy fans. So to hear someone's take on the game that hasn't found out the story yet is really cool.
Right.
To me, it's really cool. And I find it fascinating. Like, wow, this is what you really think of the game.
Yeah, and I feel
Because
like
everyone
it's
else
a
is a bunch
great
of old heads next to me.
yeah, it was a great entrance to the franchise too. And I also not super fond of turn-based games, which is why I never played the original.
Oh, okay.
I'm over that now as an adult, but you know, when I was younger, I just wasn't super into turn-based. So now that I played the remake, I was like, wow, this was such an amazing game. And now I'm going through and I'm playing all the other ones. So I think it's a great entry point for a lot of Final Fantasy people. If they've never played, I think it's a good starting point.
Was there any other characters that you cosplayed like from Final Fantasy besides Tifa? Did you do any like Aerith or Yuffie cosplays at all? No.
Just Tifa so far. That was the only one, and I did that. I got her cosplay ready as soon as I finished the game. I was like, I have black hair, I have bangs. Let's do this.
Have you thought about doing like how she looks like in Advent Children too, like with the black
With the
suit?
cowboy stuff?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, not the cowboy, but like how she in the movie, if you've seen it, like where it's 2 years after the main
Oh,
game.
okay, yeah, the one with that has Zach in it.
Yeah. So like she has the cowboy costume, and then there's the one that she has now in remake,
Yeah.
which has kind of been altered a little bit compared to like the original. And then there's her movie costume where like she wears like a black top and like black shorts with
I'm
black
always
boots.
down to do like variants of characters that I love. So yeah, definitely I have so many different like works in progress that I'm like, oh, I'll get to it eventually. One day it'll happen.
Are there any like projects that you're working on now that you could probably, you don't have to speak on it in case you're trying to like save the reveal?
No,
But
yeah, I actually have one I'm super, super, super excited about. So avid Zelda fan. I love Zelda. I just got almost completely, I'm just working on her wig, Midna's true form from Twilight Princess. That is the one that will be next.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what that is because I
No.
didn't play Zelda growing up. I saw like everyone else playing it, like the N64 one, but I
Ocarina
never
or
played. Yeah, I've never
Majora?
played it. Yeah, I've never played any Zelda game.
Oh my
I feel like
gosh.
that's something that I need to like get to doing.
You need to
'cause-
fix that. Especially because Breath of the Wild is out. That's a great entry to the Zelda series. It's very different from the Zeldas before it, but it's still very, very good. I have played almost every single Zelda. So I've cosplayed Zelda from Breath of the Wild because I really enjoyed that Zelda. But next will be Midna. She's basically just Link's companion through Twilight Princess, which originally came out on the GameCube and Wii.
Yeah, that I know. I remember reading about Twilight Princess on like on a Game Informer a long time ago.
It's definitely one of my favorite Zeldas, which I feel like a lot of people always are like, really, that one? But the art style just takes it for me.
You know, as we come to an end here, Salem, I just want to say thank you for your time here. I know we can probably go on a little bit more about just a lot of different topics, but I think this is great to have fans and followers get to know you a little bit. Besides doing the cosplay and all that stuff too, um, you know, was there anything that you'd like to say before we wrap things up? Like any last words or like shout out your social media as well?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on almost any platform, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, anything, TikTok. It's all Sailor Salem with an underscore at the end. And thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun to be able to just like nerd out with somebody.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point of the podcast. I like talking to just anyone and everyone. Just again, cosplayers always catch my attention first because I get to see like, oh, this is what they're into, so I
Right.
can find topics to talk about. But I'll be happy to have you back on the podcast in the future, to nerd out more about different things, especially Attack on Titan if you're up for it.
Yeah, I love that. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, but again, thank you so much for this. An hour pretty much flew by so quickly, and, again, like I said, we can go on forever about a lot of different things, but due to time, unfortunately I won't be able to. But again, Salem, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully everything goes well for you as well. And don't, if you'd like to be on the podcast again, don't be afraid to reach out.
Sounds good to me. Thank you so much.
No problem. So this is the end of episode 107. Again, follow Sailor Salem on Instagram and all social medias. The And links and all that will be in the description of the video and the podcast links and all that stuff. So make sure you follow her. And again, like, share, and subscribe to Spoiler Force Podcast. Follow the Discord or join the Discord. You'll get all updates there first. And again, thank you guys so much and have a great day.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give a review and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want to get all Spoiler Force updates or even peeks at behind the scenes, you can join the Spoiler Force Discord community. And if you'd like to show support, give tips, recommendations, sponsorships, or any collaborations, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com.